everybody, and thank you for joining us back here at Soligenix's channel. As is tradition, we have another exciting interview for you guys today as we sit here with Susan Thornton, the Chief Executive Officer of the Cutaneous Lymphoma Foundation in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, as an Ohioan, always good to see good work coming out of an adjacent state. Susan, how are you doing? Are you ready to get into it today?
Yeah, sure. It's really lovely to be here. And I'll just have to correct you. I'm in Philadelphia, but the foundation is actually headquartered in Michigan. So right outside of Detroit. So yeah.
That changes things as an Ohioan. We don't have quite a good relationship with Michigan as we do PA. But listen, all right, Susan, let's dive into it. The real goal of having you on today is to really familiarize people with CTCL or cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, right? And kind of dive in just a little bit into like Soligenix's hybrid treatment and the role it could potentially play for people suffering from CTCL. So are you ready to dive into CTCL?
Yeah, let's go. One of my favorite topics.
Perfect. So first and foremost, we understand that it's a relatively rare and uncommon cancer, right? What really makes it a rare cancer?
Well, according to the FDA, anything under 200,000 diagnoses is considered a rare disease over and above. And obviously in cutaneous lymphomas, when you pull together all of the subtypes that are underneath of that large umbrella, somewhere around 40,000 diagnoses in North America.
Interesting. So like when it comes down to it, are there more people with the early stages of it or like more in the late stage?
Well, generally speaking, most people are diagnosed in early stage and most are diagnosed with the predominant subtype, which is called mycosis fungoides. And this disease doesn't follow along your traditional cancer diagnoses type of thing, because yes, it's a blood cancer. However, it is a blood cancer of those cells that are part of our immune system that work in the skin. It shows up as rashes and different things like that. So it's often misdiagnosed as other more typical skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, and things of that nature. So a lot of people are diagnosed with something else first. And so, yeah, it's a little different, a little challenging, but most people have early stage. Yeah.
Yeah, this was something I had talked about with Chris Schraber. In general, when you have something rare like this, then obviously when it actually happens, it's a lot harder to catch it as early as possible and stuff, right? And it's harder to get proper treatments for it and so on. And off that point, why would something like hybrid be so important and exciting to patients then?
There's a lot of good reasons for that, I think. You know, we don't have an FDA approved light-oriented therapy for cutaneous lymphomas. You know, we use UVB or UVA light, and sometimes it's challenging for our patient populations to receive that therapy for a variety of reasons or to get it reimbursed by their insurers because it's not specific for cutaneous lymphoma. So having an approved therapy, hopefully at some juncture down the road, that uses this very interesting combination of the hybrid topical with the light is really important. And then the fact that it's a fluorescent light is also very important because for many people, myself included, you know, fair-skinned, you have tendencies towards skin cancers, things of that nature. And this is a long-term, generally, treatment for a chronic disease. So you're talking years, maybe decades, where you will be receiving therapy. It's important to look at the long-term risks and side effects. So having something that does not have that long-term potential risk for many people is really, really important because, again, many people will be on therapy for a long period of time.
Yeah, agreed. And speaking of people that would potentially benefit from this, Susan, I'm curious about. They said this is something you have personally suffered from, correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about your story? Because empathy is a big part when it comes to actually helping people in these kind of situations. You're the perfect person for it.
Yeah, well, you know, in a quick nutshell, you know, I was diagnosed over 30 years ago. So back then there really were not a lot of options and there were not a lot of expert clinicians in the field who were familiar with this disease. Similar to most people, I had a an unrelenting rash around my waist. It was kind of itchy. I went to 5 different dermatologists over the course of a year. Nothing kind of worked. And I finally landed with a derm who had studied with one of the global experts in the field here in Philadelphia. She took a biopsy, but immediately sent me down to see him. And they were able to confirm the diagnosis. At that time, there weren't a lot of options. So I started with UVA phototherapy, which, had a lot of that. It worked for a while. Anyway, long story short, I was in that very, very small percentage, probably somewhere, there's about 10% people diagnosed with mycosis fungoides early stage whose disease progresses. My disease progressed, but over the course of about a 6 to 7 year window into a more aggressive form. Again, I was very fortunate to be with one of the global experts, and in 1998 underwent a lot of electron beam radiation, because I had run through all of the options that were available to me, and my disease was progressing, and there were not systemic agents that were available at that time. So I was very lucky, and did radiation plus interferon and kind of did all of that. That knocked my disease back, thankfully. I did that combination for another 10 years as my disease kind of smoldered, if you will. And I still have some patches that I deal with now, but relatively calm, but always looking forward to what's next on the horizon, because I don't know when my disease might take a turn, right? And it's something we don't understand fully yet. There's still a lot of biology we have to understand on whose disease will progress. Can we understand whose will progress sooner so you can do better treatment and targeted treatments and so forth? So I've been living with this now for 30 some odd years and have had the experience of early stage misdiagnosis, being treated, doing well, and then having aggressive, being treated and doing well. And I consider myself very lucky.
Yeah. So with your experience there, and as you said, things have improved significantly since then, right? But looking forward, what do you think the real pain points are that need to be solved through everybody working together now to really help the overall outcome, and patient expectation from this?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges, couple of things really. Most people, I would say, end up with a misdiagnosis early on, again, because it looks so much like other more prevalent diseases, skin diseases. So first, it really knocks you back when you think you have psoriasis, eczema, dermatitis, and now all of a sudden you're told you have a rare, incurable cancer, blood cancer. It's mind-boggling. And then to also be told, well, most likely, especially if you've been diagnosed with mycosis fungoides, the most prevalent variant, most likely your disease will not progress, but we really don't know if yours will progress or not. And the fact that this will be a chronic disease because it is not curable today, you will require therapy of some sort over the course of the rest of your life. So wrapping your head around all of that is really challenging. And then you add the fact that it's a very visible disease, right? You can cover it up if it's on your body, maybe on your arms, but when it starts to affect your face, or we have many patients that, haven't worn a bathing suit in years, don't wear shorts, don't wear short sleeve shirts because it's so visible. It's hard emotionally because it can look ugly, right? And it's uncomfortable. And human beings sometimes are not very kind to other human beings when they look different.
Yeah.
And grappling with a very visible disease and that's something we share with other skin conditions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to have treatments that perhaps, even if they can't cure the disease, can make the disease much easier to live with. Itching is an issue. So if the itching can subside, that's huge, can help impact sleep and other things. And the visibility component is a big deal. That emotional impact that you have to deal with when you have a skin condition that is visible to other people. If you can alleviate some of that, that can be huge on someone's quality of life going forward, as well as their capacity to continue with treatment, right, over a long course of time.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, in terms of psychological health, that is what motivates people to continue helping themselves in these kind of situations. And I guess if you could just tell me a bit more about the foundation then and what you guys actually do there.
Sure, always happy to share about that. We're very proud to have been started back in 1998 by three amazing individuals, a patient, a physician who is an expert in the field, and the caregiver of a patient who passed away from a more aggressive form of the disease. And, it was very, very important to Judy, our patient founder. She was diagnosed the same year I was. And like me, there was nowhere to go. She didn't know anyone else, no one else. It was hard to find information. And she was very passionate about being able to share this experience with other people who may be going through the same thing. And so we've always been dedicated, first and foremost, to bringing high quality, clinically vetted education and information to those people who have been diagnosed and their families. Along the way, we've added the capacity to support early stage research in this disease, which is so very needed. And advocating for people living with these diseases so that they can get access to specialists, access to therapies, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I commend you guys. Essentially, what you guys are now providing for people is something that you guys didn't really have, right? So what was missing, you guys are now providing, which is good. And I agree with you that it's a lot easier to face something when you know what it is that you're facing, and that can give you a lot more courage, and then you can actually make a plan and a strategy moving forward with your physician. So I guess, Susan, first off, thank you for coming on and chatting with me. This was a really interesting conversation. And last but not least, going back to Highbright for just a second, how would this be really good for people in terms of like as an important addition to their choices?
Well, I think first and foremost, again, this will be the first treatment like this for patients with early stage, which is very, very exciting. And I know we've been monitoring and tracking the clinical trial as it's been going forward and as data has become available. So some very interesting outcomes from the clinical trial data related to some of the different variants and so forth of the disease. I think having the dedication of the company specifically to this therapy in cutaneous lymphoma and for early stage patients, as well as probably across the board at some juncture, is really important. There will never be a one size fits all, particularly in this disease, because it's so complex. Mm-hmm. Having as many therapies in our toolbox as possible is really, really important. And and I do know I've heard that potentially at some juncture, there will be an opportunity for home units and things of that nature, which is great. Because as we know, that we have people everywhere geographically. So access is really important. And having a company dedicated to making sure patients have access is really, really critical as well. So it's exciting to see. We're going to monitor, we're going to watch, and see how things go from here. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have another treatment to offer.
Perfect. Well, Susan, again, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. If anyone has any questions, let us know. We'll happily answer them for you. But for now, Susan, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.